In this video, I list my top 15 major villains missing from the Vintage Collection. Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. As I mentioned in the intro, this video is going to be all about the missing villains from the Vintage Collection and how underrepresented they actually are when you compare them against the heroes and troopers within the line. So stick around, you may actually be surprised by the numbers, and also stick around because I'll be going through my top 15 most wanted villains to be added to the line. Alright then, so I've been doing a count, and out of the 115 mainline carded figures in the Vintage Collection 1.0, we had a total of 33 heroes versus just 11 villains. Now I have not included troopers and henchmen and things like that in that count. We are talking about the main villains in this video. Now, of those 11, there are 2 versions of Darth Sidious, 4 Darth Vaders, and we are including VC-13 Anakin when he's turned into Darth Vader, because essentially he is Darth Vader at that point. So that just leaves 5 other main villains, such as General Grievous, Tarkin, Darth Maul, and Malgus. I think I may have included Jango Fett in there too. It's a similar story with the Vintage Collection 2.0, with 38 heroes versus just 6 main villains. 6! 7 if we do count the rumoured Emperor, which is going to be on a Return of the Jedi card, but that still only amounts to 7, so very, very underrepresented as I mentioned. So it begs the question, where are all the main villains? Why hasn't Hasbro made these in the line? We desperately need these characters in the line for our heroes to face off against. Now, I haven't included troopers as villains because the Rebels have troopers as well, and I haven't counted them in the heroes lot. Nor have I counted clones, as it's debatable if clones are good or evil, and essentially they're just troopers as well. I know there's like clone commanders and things like that, but I don't count them as main villains. As I said, this video is all about the main dudes, and to ask Hasbro the question, where are all of the main villains in the Vintage Collection? So before we do get onto my list of the 15 major villains missing from the Vintage Collection, if I could just ask you to hit the like button if you do happen to enjoy this video, and also comment down below with your most wanted villains too. I'd also like to express a big thank you to John from the Vintage Concepts for supplying all of the card art images and the concept images. They are fantastic. You want to follow him on Instagram, it's at the Vintage Concepts, and I will leave a link in the description below. Alright then, so with all that being said, in no particular order, here are my top 15 villains that are missing from the Vintage Collection. So first up, we do have the biggest villain of them all. It is of course the Emperor. Now I'm not going to expand on this one too much, as he is heavily rumoured to be released this year. But it goes without saying that we do need the Emperor in the line on that Return of the Jedi card, and it's pretty astounding really that he hasn't already been released. Next on the list is Count Dooku. Now I've said many times, I find it absolutely astounding we do not have Count Dooku in the Vintage Collection, especially when the Vintage Collection 1.0 was so prequel trilogy heavy. We have had Mace Windu and Jango Fett, but no Count Dooku. I just don't understand it. Dooku was also in 2 of the 3 prequel movies, and let's face it, is a pretty major character from those films. Next on my list is Director Krennic, another major villain completely overlooked in the Vintage Collection. We have the heroes, or most of them, we have the troopers, we even have another Darth Vader, but are still missing the main bad guy from Rogue One. It's unbelievable that we do not have Director Krennic in the Vintage Collection. Moving on to Grand Admiral Thrawn, recently mentioned in the Mandalorian TV show and also heavily featured in the animated TV show Star Wars Rebels. I think it's about time we got the big blue guy in the Vintage Collection. A major villain with a huge cult following stretching many years. At the end of the day, we really need a Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Vintage Collection, and again, it's just one of those ones of all the expanded universe figures that they've given us, and they haven't given us Grand Admiral Thrawn. Another pretty major villain missing from an animated series is Asajj Ventress. Again, the Clone Wars figures we have currently are all heroes and troopers. Okay, we are getting a Season 7 Darth Maul, but that isn't enough. We need the awesome Asajj Ventress with her double lightsabers, especially that she now has an awesome Black Series figure. It's almost like they're rubbing salt into a wound. Staying on the Clone Wars theme, next on my list is Cad Bane, another character that was recently created for the Black Series. Now I debated whether to put this guy on the list, as I don't really count bounty hunters when I'm working out how many major villains we currently have, but unlike some of the other bounty hunters, Cad Bane does have a significant role and deserves to be on the list. Next up, we have 3 characters from Solo: A Star Wars Story that I consider all to be main villains. First of all, we have Dryden Voss, who we are in no doubt is one of the bad guys. A figure that once again exists in the Black Series but is missing from the Vintage Collection. Then we have Beckett, who although could be considered a good guy for much of the film, does end up trying to deceive everyone and run off with the loot. As we know, he met his fate at the hands of the hero Han Solo, so to me Beckett is one of the main villains and also another figure that already exists in the Black Series and was completely missed in the Vintage Collection. Similarly to Beckett, Kira is actually one of the villains. She is embedded in Crimson Dawn and takes her orders from Darth Maul. She ends up choosing the life of a villain instead of the life with her first love. Nice girl. Now the outfit I would love to see would be the one she wore on Kessel with the red cape, which would make an awesome figure. I do understand at that point in the film she is kind of one of the heroes, but still she ends up being one of the main villains and she needs to be in the Vintage Collection. I couldn't create a list of villains without including a couple from the sequel trilogy, and rather than choosing yet another Emperor, I've gone for General Pride, who in my opinion should have been the Tarkin-esque type character throughout the trilogy. Instead we got General Hux, who after The Force Awakens became a bit of a laughingstock with absolutely zero menace or threat. Still, it would have been good to have a figure of General Hux from The Force Awakens to complete the trio with Snoke and Kylo Ren. Moving on to video games, and if you enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order as much as I did, then you will hopefully agree that the second sister would be a great addition to the Vintage Collection. Now of course we still don't have the main hero either, but with the gaming greats proving popular, I can see Hasbro maybe adding a few more from Jedi Fallen Order in the future. Then of course we have Darth Revan from Knights of the Old Republic. Darth Revan was actually due to be released in the Vintage Collection, with Hasbro opting to use the figure from the 2007 30th anniversary line. The fans weren't happy as the figure isn't up to today's standards, and Hasbro subsequently cancelled the figure's inclusion. It remains to be seen whether Hasbro create an all-new Revan. However, the Black Series version was popular enough for them to create a Jedi version, so I'm sure an all-new Darth Revan in the Vintage Collection would be a big hit, and Hasbro just need to get their skates on and give us that figure. And finally, the final 2 figures on my list are from Star Wars Rebels. First off, the Grand Inquisitor would have been an awesome figure and is one of the major villains from the animated show. And then we have Agent Callas, who, although, spoiler alert, ended up turning good, was the main villain chasing down the crew of the Ghost for much of the show. Again, we are missing all of the heroes in the line too, so don't hold your breath for either of these bad guys, but still, they do deserve to be on the list. Now I did say at the beginning that when counting how many villains we actually have, I didn't include troopers, but I did just want to mention the Dark Trooper as a pretty cool villain that we are missing. Not to mention all of the Imperial offers such as Piet, Veers, Nida, etc. The list goes on and on and on. So come on Hasbro, go easy on the heroes for a bit and balance things up by giving us much needed villains such as Dooku, Thrawn, Krennic and Revan. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching as always, and we shall see you on the next one.